Okay, this is the homework video for page 489 to 490, section 8.3 homework. So we are going to be multiplying binomial times binomial, and we're going to be using double distribution. So I am going to y times y is y squared, y times 8 is 8y, negative 3 times y is minus 3y, and negative 3 times negative 8 is negative 24. So I'm expecting to be able to combine these middle two terms, and so 8 minus 3 is 5. That's my final answer. Number 11, I've got c minus 10 times c minus 5. So let me show my distribution in another color. So I'm going to do this first term times both of the terms inside the second parentheses. C times c is c squared. C times minus 5 is minus 5. Oh, y was in the last one. Minus 5c. Then here I've got a minus 10. And minus 10 times c is minus 10c. Minus 10 times minus 5 is positive 50. So that gives me c squared, and then negative 5c and minus 10c is minus 15c plus 50. Number 13, 2x plus 7 times 3x minus 4. So I'm going to show my distribution. There's always going to be 4 multiplication problems that you're doing. So I'll show a little more work this time, even though your goal is to be able to multiply these in your head. But you're going to do 2x times 3x for the first one. Then 2x times minus 4. Then 7 times 3x. And 7 times negative 4. So once you combine all of those, or just multiply them out, we get 6x squared minus 8x plus 21x minus 28. And I'm going to combine my middle two terms again. So 6x squared, negative 8 plus 21 is 13, I believe, minus 28. Number 15, we've got a minus 1 times a minus 11. And that gives us 4 multiplication problems. A times a is a squared, a times negative 11, negative 11a, negative 1 times a, and negative 1 times negative 11 is positive 11. So my trinomial that I end up with is a squared minus 12a plus 11. Number 17, 2h minus 7 times h plus 9. So I'm going to be doing 2h times h, which is 2h squared, 2h times 9, and that's a positive 9, so it's a positive 18h, minus 7 times h, minus 7 times 9 is negative 63. So 2h squared, 18 minus 7 is 11h, minus 63. Okay, next, number 19. I've got 3p plus 4 times 2p plus 5. So 3p times 2p is 6p squared. 3p times 5 is 15p. 4 times 2p is 8p. 4 times 5 is positive 20. Combine like terms, 15 and 8, that's 23. Number 21, let me turn the page, let's see what we have. So the directions say to use the FOIL method, which is already exactly what we've been doing. So I'm going to talk about what that means. FOIL stands for first. My camera. outer, inner, and last. So what you can see is that we're multiplying the first terms. 4x times x is 4x squared. Then we're multiplying the two outer terms, which is x times minus 5, so minus 5x. Then we're multiplying the inner terms, or, we're still doing the double distribution. Inner is 4 times 4x, or positive 16x. And the last, so it's the two last terms in each binomial. 4 times negative 5 is negative 20. So they came up with this acronym FOIL to help you remember the order of things. So, but it's the same thing that we've been doing all along, and it's just another name for it. So sometimes you'll hear me call it FOIL, but sometimes not. So keep going. Number 23 is b minus 3 and b minus 9. So b times b is b squared. B times minus 9 is minus 9b. Minus 3 times b. And minus 3 times minus 9 is plus 27. So we're going to combine like terms in the middle. Negative 9 minus 3 is minus 12b plus 27. Number 25, we've got 9z plus 4. We have some pretty big coefficients here, but all the multiplying is really just kind of part of our basic multiplication facts, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. So I'll show my first and outer. So 9z times 5z is 45. Z times z is z squared. 9 times negative 3 is negative 27. Then my inner and my last, 4 times 5z is 20z. And 4 times negative 3 is minus 12. So combine like terms, 45z squared, negative 27 plus 20 minus 7z minus 12. And number 27 is 4w plus 13 times w plus 2. And that's going to be same thing. 4w times w is 4w squared. 4w times 2 is 8w. 13 times w is 13w. 13 times 2 is 26. 4w squared, 8 and 13 is 21, plus 26, and that's our final answer. So now we'll go to numbers 31 through 41 odd, which I believe are going to be a little bit longer problems. And we didn't get to do any of those in class yesterday, so we'll probably go over these in class today. Number 31, we've got x plus 5 times x squared minus 3x plus 1. And so this is just going to be a multiple distribution. So I'm going to take my first term, and instead of just multiplying it by two things, I have three things to multiply it by. And I'll write out my multiplication problem. So x times x squared is x to the third. And I just said I was going to write that out, didn't I? X times x squared is x to the third. Then I've got x times minus 3x. So that is minus 3x squared. Then I've got x times plus 1. And that is plus x. Now, on the bottom here, I've got a plus 5 times 3 different things. So that is plus 5 times x squared is 5x squared. Plus 5 times minus 3x. So plus 5 times minus 3x is negative 15x. And then plus 5 times plus 1 is positive 5. Okay, so now I've got a big addition problem, me zoom out a little bit here. I've got a pretty big addition problem, but I'm not worried about that because you guys know how to combine like terms. So what I'm going to do is write this in standard form, or descending order of the variable. So I'm going to start with my x cubed terms, and there's only one of those. Then I'm going to go to my x squared terms. I'm going to circle those. So I've got -3 plus 5, which is plus 2 x squareds. Then I'm going to go to my x's and put a box around those. So I've got plus 1 minus 15, which is minus 14x. And then I'm going to double underline my constant. So that helped me keep track of my like terms, and now I've got my final answer. So we had a binomial times a trinomial, and we ended up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 terms, and then those were able to simplify into 4 terms. Number 33, I'm going to use this one to show you guys the box method. It's just another way of keeping track of all your terms, and it doesn't involve algebra tiles or anything like that, so that's nice. So I want to multiply 2a squared plus 4a plus 5. So I am going to put that, I'm going to make a box or a grid that is 2 by 3. I'm going to put 2a squared plus 4a plus 5 here along the top. And then I've got a 5a and a minus 4 here along the bottom. And so I know that a binomial times a trinomial will give me 6 terms, and this is just a nice way to organize them. And an interesting thing happens with the like terms as well, which I'll show you. So in each box you're going to have the different things that line up that have to be multiplied. So here's 5a times 2a squared, which is 10a to the third. Then in this box here, I'm going to have 5a times 4a, which is 20a squared. 5a times 5 is 25a. Now when I go down to the bottom, that's going to be my minus 4 side. -4 times 2a squared is -8a squared. -4 times 4a is minus 16a. And -4 times positive 5 is -20. And so I want you to look at what happens on the diagonals. So when you use the box method, your like terms will line up for you. So we've got 6 terms altogether, but I can see here are my like terms. So now I can just go ahead and write down my polynomial that is the answer to all this. So here I've got my a squareds, and it's 20 minus 8, or 12a squared. 25 minus 16 is 9a, and then my minus 20 is down here all by itself. How far did we have to go up? Up to 41. So let's look at number 35. 35 is a word problem. So let me read it. A school's rectangular athletic fields currently have a length of 125 yards and a width of 75 yards. So let me go ahead and label this 125 and 75. And the school plans to expand both the length and the width of the field by X yards. So they're going to make this X units longer, and they're going to make this X units wider. So it's the same X on both sides, so they're going to expand it. So what polynomial in standard form represents the area of the expansion? So the original one, we know area of a polynomial or of a rectangle is length times width. So I just need a new expression for my length and my width that includes this X. So since they're adding on to the field, I can simply say it's the old field, 125, plus whatever the addition is. So plus X. And the same thing with the width here. they're adding on to the old field x yards. So I can think of that as 75 plus x. So my new area is simply 125 plus x times 75 plus x, and I'm going to multiply that out and I'm going to use the FOIL method or double distribution. So 125 times 75, I'm just going to write out my multiplication problems first, plus 125 times x, 125x, plus x times 75, which I can write as 75x, and x times x. So now as I'm going across, I'm going to write things in standard form. So that involves descending order of the variable. So I'm going to start with x squared plus, and then 125 plus 75 is 200x. And then the last one is what I need my calculator for, so that is 125 times 75, 9,375. So they told us it would be a polynomial expression that represents the area, so it's okay that we don't have a final answer. Number 37, now we're back to just straight up double distribution again. It's just the numbers are a little bit weirder. Negative n squared minus 1 times n plus 3. So we just have to follow the rules. We're going to take the first one and we're going to distribute it. And since the polynomial part of it, the multiplication is a little more challenging, I'll write out my problems. So here I've got negative n squared times n plus negative n squared times 3 plus, and then I'm over to the other side, so now I've got my negative 1. So negative 1 times n, and then negative 1 times 3 is minus 3. So now I'm ready to do some multiplying, and then I'll see if there's any like terms that I can combine. So negative n squared times n is negative n to the third, and then negative n squared times 3 is minus 3n squared, negative 1 times n, and minus 3. So no like terms. And the reason there are no like terms is because we didn't have the same powers in our expression at all. So number 39, we've got 2m squared plus 1 times m plus 5. So 2m squared times m, and that's 2m to the third, plus 2m squared times 5, which is 10m squared, plus, and then I'm down here at the bottom, 1 times m, so that's plus m, plus 5, plus 5. Okay, and no like terms, so I'm done. Last one, number 41, I've got 4z squared plus 1 times z plus 3z squared equals, so let's do our distribution. First, outer, inner, last. 4z squared times z is 4z to the third. 4z squared times 3z squared, ooh, that's a big one. So let me write that out. 4z squared times 3z squared, so that's going to end up being 12z to the fourth, which I can already tell I'm going to have to switch some things around to get them in standard form. So plus 1 times z, alright, that's an easy one. So that's just z. And then plus 1 times 3z squared, so that is 3z squared. Okay, so I've got all my multiplying done, but my answer is not in standard form. So I want to go ahead and do descending order of the variable. So I'm going to put 12z fourth plus 4z cubed plus 3z squared plus z. So things didn't end up in the right order because my binomial that I started with wasn't in descending order. order. So that is your homework for 8-3. Thanks for watching.